thank you so much for taking some time to do this.
Welcome.
We're trying to talk more to composers instead of me writing notes or me talking about pieces. It's nice to actually talk to people, and that's been sort of a bonus of the pandemic, right? Everyone's suddenly reachable for a pre-concert talk. But,
yeah.
So you're obviously a fairly familiar face to musica intima audiences, but I wonder if you could just take us back a little bit to your history with intima and when that started and when it stopped and when it started again. And
Oh, that's fun to track. So I joined musica intima in 1996. So not a founding member, but pretty early on, and joined when we were fully amateur. We did it all ourselves. My goodness. Left in 1999 because I was becoming a pastor in my congregation, and I was doing other things, Vancouver Chamber Choir, and something had to give. And so unfortunately, it was kind of a heartbreaking thing, but that sort of had to give. And then auditioned and came back a couple of years later. I think it was just 2 years later. And then all of a sudden we had a manager and we started paying ourselves little bits of money, and it's so exciting. But throughout a lot of the time that I've been with Intima, and then to track that through, then I started going to graduate school in 2004. Things got complicated, and then when I had my first baby in 2007, it was like, okay, so I toured to Copenhagen with the group with my 6-month-old baby, and it was like, I think that's going to be good for me, and moving on to other things. So finishing graduate school and that sort of thing. So throughout my time in Intima, I was often on the repertoire committee, and by the last 5 years or so, I think I was RepCom chair is what they called us. So before the glorious days of having an artistic director, when, 4 times a year we'd get together, this group of us in a cafe, when, we could be together and put our heads together and say, what does Christmas look like next year? And this and that. So I think that's where this piece came from. I had to trace it back. I found my master copy, thank goodness. It's like, when did I write that? Well, we recorded it in 2008, so it had to be before that. But 2006 is what I have on the score. So probably that came out of one of these RepCom conversations. What's our theme for Christmas? What do we want to do? And my motto is often just do it yourself. Make it easy. We'd always reach out to composers and things like that. But no, I've done a number of arrangements. I think the first one I ever did for Intima was So Long Farewell as an encore. And it was so fun to tour that. And each of us had our own little part to play and little solo pieces and choreography. That was our first choreography of trying to move our bodies around and stand in a line and kick ourselves out and, make it cute like the movie, but a couple, little twists with the orchestra and stuff like that. So that's sort of a wandering answer to your question. No, I have a great love for Intima, and yeah.
Well, that was my first introduction, was singing So Long Farewell. And it's quite funny to see this, photocopied manuscript score. Everything's typeset now. That certainly wasn't typeset. And see everybody's little name. This is where Siri falls down. This is where Joe falls down. It's all good times. But so has composition always been a part of your life, or was that just, you decided you're going to write this piece because you wanted to write a piece, or was it more arranging that you started with and then moved into composition, or?
Yep, arranging first. And no, composition hasn't always been like a dream or a goal. Going through a music degree, obviously you do different sorts of harmony and setting of different little tunes and things. So probably Intima was my first playground for that. And really, I consider Intima itself to be an instrument. So to like write a concerto or write something for Intima, because it's so unique in a way. There's such independence in the voices, but a beautiful unity in the voices as well. So I just had a great deal of confidence. Definitely to volunteer to do that. The arranging, the jazz concerts, all the different little pieces that I put together were really good stepping stones, and to see what's possible and what fits the group. So this might have been the first one I composed. Really, mostly I've done it for Intima. I'm still doing songwriting, but that's different. I write my own words, I write my own melodies, and things are a bit looser. I think growing up as a classical musician, I just received everything from the masters. And so that was a natural evolution to contribute a bit to that stream.
And that was from your childhood growing up as a musician, or?
Yeah, I started in violin at age 8, and going through in orchestras and such, and chamber music and such, and then getting into singing in high school, and then university degree in singing, and it kind of goes from there. Some opera, this and that. So yeah, this and that. That's what you do.
It must be a special joy to write for your friends too, right? Like
oh man, it is such a joy, and it was such a joy to see the score again, because on this lovely descant where I'm thinking angels, how do we get angels? Siri, and I can see now that my whiteout faded because it's also just manuscript. I was surprised it wasn't typeset. I got Sibelius just after. I was between programs on my computer, so I'll write it out. And I thought, the original has her up to a high C, just soaring up to a high C and back down again. Now it bleeds through after time has passed, and it's like, oh, she's probably happy, and probably whoever's doing it now is pretty happy that it doesn't go up.
The sopranos, thank you for writing. No, but I think it's a really lovely piece, and I mean, it's one of these things for me is that I look at it on paper, and I've heard the recording from a couple years ago. I'm like, oh, that's a lovely little simple piece, and then you sit and look at it, and you look at the words, and you look at this little epitaph you have here as well. It's like there's a lot more there than just a simple carol, right? So, do you want to talk a bit about the epitaph and where that comes from? And
oh, absolutely. And I can read it to you because unlike you and I, everybody else doesn't have it in front of you. So I got it from this book that I bought at Powell's. Oh, Powell's bookshop down in Portland. This lovely little theology book. I've done a fair bit of seminary, but I like little theology books. They're my favorite. And so Jürgen Moltmann says, if we see the particular birth of the child of promise as mirroring the promise of children in general, then we can cry with the romantic poet Clemens Brentano, what a mystery is a child. What a mystery. And it goes from there. In his poem, Brentano traces the pattern of this mystery, seeing in it a triple-stranded bond between our relationship to God as God's children, the birth of the Redeemer as a child, and the special relationship of all children forged through us through the child, Jesus. Just coming back to child. And I look at that. I don't know, once again, this came out of the opportunity to create something from repertoire committee, but the poem had struck me. I bought the book in 2004, like a couple of years ago. It was sitting on my shelf, but it's pretty fresh and I really enjoyed it. And it's sort of been, stuck in my subconscious. And I think there must have been something like, we had not had children yet. We were not expecting yet, but I think I was ready to be part of that creative thing too, not knowing what it would look like for my life or our life together, or my, future with Intima. We'd been so stable in membership for so long. The women had just been all together. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, no, we're kind of maybe pulling apart in different ways, and motherhood's a big thing for that. But I think there's a tenderness there, and we've just been singing such beautiful music. I going back and listening to it, like you say, it's simple, and it is so slow. It is so painful to sing the slow music with no strings or organ behind it, no support. I understand that. I'm glad it's only 3 minutes long. It's like, it reminds me of singing the Ave Maria. It's the people Ave Maria. Just, there's nowhere to go. There's just no hiding place. But there was just I was just going for this sense of mystery. And I feel that Intima got there, certainly with the recording, I'm sure will again. But the fact that it is so slow, it goes into heart time, where time stops. Like, we're not stuck in our heads with future and past, and we're not stuck in our guts with the now, what's happening now, but we're in heart space where we're just suspended. We're just in this no time. And it feels that way to me. So it's not the most gracious and forgiving thing to sing, but at least there's lots of variety, so it doesn't stay anywhere.
Well, I mean, you've sung these same pieces over and over again, but the Bibel and the Lords, and neither of them are particularly wonderful to sing with 12 people, right? It's just not enough singers. But it somehow comes together, and every time we do either of those pieces, the audience is coming up saying, "Oh, time stopped. Time was still in those 5 minutes, those 7 minutes."
And in the performance, the performers feel that magic. It's just the rehearsal when you're breaking it down, and just feeling that fatigue. And I don't want to complain. It's a pleasure and privilege to be able to sing all this, but it does come at a cost.
Yeah.
What I love looking through it too, and I have to pop this in, is the cheekiness. I get to around page 4, and I put in, a word that we coined, crescelarando, just that, right? I mean, that's what happens to us as singers when things get louder, they get faster. And so we coined that phrase in the late 90s for ourselves. I'm sure someone else came up with it, like crescelarando, let's get faster and louder. And usually you fight that impulse. But that was the point in the piece where I thought that Jesuskind, that's where we're getting excited and we are participating in this mystery. We are part of it. And then it blooms, and then it just hangs in the air just to finish up. It just, like fireworks when you've got all the smoke, you've got all the light, and it just releases to the end.
So I see it's dedicated to your mother.
Yes. I think there's something about this sort of aging thing and contemplating joining the next generation, having kids, where I just was feeling tenderness. And I have to say it's 14 years ago, and I tend to live my life not in the rear view, but more in the what's coming up ahead. But trying to cast myself back into that space, I think I was just feeling a lot of tenderness, and in contemplating having space in my life to nurture and to be a mother. I really was looking at her as a model, and wanted her to feel included in this, and that I was really touching on those feelings from childhood, and that container, that safe container of growing that I felt. So yeah, she was definitely a part of this.
That's beautiful. What's one thing you would want the audience to hear out of this piece?
The one thing I hope the audience hears is the love that the singers have for each other, the hope that's in the text, that each person that hears this is as precious as the reason for the season, is just as precious, is tied into that hope and that joy. Yeah, I would just hope that there would be an affect of love and nurturing that comes through it.
Well, I think there certainly is that in the room this year, especially, so Carmen J is leading this piece, right? And he's probably one of the 2 members who have sung with you a lot, and it's nice to come full circle like that. And it worked out beautifully, and I'm glad we could include it in the program.
Yes, thank you. I'm touched. Well, this is a year when everybody needs a bit of intima. I tell you, I think we have to hit these depths and heights of feeling to integrate all this loss and uncertainty that we're facing. So I sure hope that lots of people come and watch.
Thank you so much, Kat. You brought a little sunshine to my life today, I have to say.